Do you love the beach as much as I do? Not that long ago, I did an on-location review of something called the Wekapo portable lounger or air lounger, and I used it on the sand, I used it in the water, and that was a lot of fun. Today we're going to be looking at another product by Wekapo, and that's the sandless blanket. Sand is just not supposed to stay on it, and that is cool to me because I don't like sand. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You, and my channel is dedicated to reviewing mostly as seen on TV items. I look at some consumer gadgets, other household items. Once in a while, I do a little bit of a DIY just because I think it's a lot of fun. If that interests you, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and click the bell below so you're notified every time I release a video just like this one. Now, let's take a closer look at this sandless blanket by Wekapo, or Wekapo, however you say it. Alright, so here we're going to take a closer look at our Wekapo blanket. Just unclip it here. We're going to pull the drawstring and take it out of the bag. Oh, if you look there, cool. The bag is actually attached to the blanket. That's convenient. And here in this bag I have, well, I believe this is where the stakes are, where I can stake down the blanket. It's a cool feature if you can't find a rock and it's a windy day and you just want to stake it down. You just clip this through the little provided hook on the blanket. Pretty sweet. What I want to do is I want to take a closer look at this material and see how it actually works. It's an interesting material. It's got a nice sheen to it. This is a big blanket. Wow. So we're here. Well, I think this is actually 2 layers. Let me see. Yeah, so this one is actually 2 pieces. I thought it was thicker than it was. So it's pretty thin material. It seems real durable. I like what I see so far. I should say I purchased this for about $40 from Amazon. If you're interested, there is going to be a link down in the description. I'm just walking down the dunes here, real excited to try out my Wekapo blanket. Just look at this view. It is beautiful out. This thing is pretty easy to set up, even just by myself. So each corner has these little loops, and you just slide the stakes through it and push that right into the ground. And to be honest with you, it pulls really, really tight. I know I already said this, but it measures 10 by 9. And yes, they say 7 adults can use this thing at once. You know what's cool? They have these little corners, these little pockets here. You can put your cell phone, your keys, your book, and we're going to talk about what else later. But it's a pretty good size. I'm really looking forward to see how the sand reacts to this blanket because, well, that's the reason I purchased it in the first place. So after fooling with this blanket for a little while, I want to show you a few things. So it's not the type of blanket where this sand is going to go through the blanket. It's the kind where if you just take it and you shake it a little bit, you can easily get the sand off the blanket. Let me show you. And just like that, the sand is off. Now, I had a little bit of difficulty because it's still staked in, but they say you can just unstake it and the sand can just be brushed off pretty easily. Therefore, no more messing with that nasty sand when you're at the beach. Here is just another view of the sand coming off. I actually took this stake off, but you can just shake it, and as long as no one's on the other side, the sand just goes away. A real quick pro tip for you, if I just take out 2 stakes, one on each corner here, and I just pick up, I can either shake it or I can just hold it high, and the sand honestly will just slide down the blanket like it's on a slide and go down to the one end. Now that end is still staked in, so it doesn't come off necessarily that way. We can get to that in a minute, but you notice how it just cleared it right off the entire blanket except for that one end, and it's pretty good. As you get the sand down to this end, you just pick up the blanket and watch. The sand just falls off as it should. Now the blanket is perfectly clean. So tell me, what do you think about these kind of blankets? Do you not like the sand when you're on the beach? I don't like it at all. Would this be something you would use? Let me know down in the comment section below. Or do you have other things that you use to keep the sand away? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. It's an overcast day, but you know what's pretty cool about having an overcast day? You get the beach almost entirely to yourself. Another claim to fame by the manufacturer is the ability for this material to resist water, or I guess wick the water on there. So look, let's see what happened. We just poured some water. You can see how it puddles, but that's probably typical. But watch, let's see what happens when we pick up the blanket. Now I do have the stakes in there, so it might be more difficult. It is cool how it just brushes off. And today it's about 80 degrees, but like I said earlier, it's overcast, so I bet this thing would dry pretty fast. But the water definitely beads up on here. So this is the second day that I've been using this Wekapo blanket, and I've already forgotten the tent stakes or the stakes to stake it down. But you know what else you can do? Remember how I told you about those little corners? You can actually fill them with sand, and they actually make like a little sandbag or a weighted corner. And I happen to do this one here on the inside, but if you don't like that and you didn't like the sand there, you can actually turn it inside out and scoop up some sand and make a sandbag that way. But I thought that was pretty cool. At the end of the day, when you're all done, you just pick up your Wekapo and start stuffing it back in the bag. You can fold it and do it nice and neat like they do, but I find that if I just stuff it in the bag like this, it does just the same. And as I'm doing this, all the excess sand that may have been on there brushes off. And here I am, ready for another day. There you go. So I've been using this Wekapo sandless blanket for a few days, and I wanted to give you my experience. First, let's talk about the material. Do you remember back in the day in gym class when you had that like poncho parachute thing and you put balls on it and everyone would shake it and then people would take turns running underneath it? Well, that's sort of the material this reminds me of. Or if you're a camper and you have those Eno hammocks, it's very similar, if not the same material as those. I just wanted you to know that. I really do love the feature of the sand. If you just do a little shake, the sand goes away, as long as, you know, there's not someone on the other side, because they would get mad. Because you can do this carefully. You can just pick it up and it just falls off, and I really like that feature. I also like the water wicking feature. So if you're out in the ocean, you come back, you lay down, you're wet, you get on the blanket, and you can just pick it up and the water just beads off. Now, it might be damp, but on a hot day, it dries pretty fast. Even on the overcast day, the first day I tried this, it dried in minutes, and I was really impressed with that. I will say the temperature of this does fluctuate. So if it's overcast, it's not hot, it rains cool, but if the sun's out beating down, it definitely gets warmer. Okay, I will say it's not hot. You can stand on it and lay on it. It's not as hot as the sand, but it's not as cool as it was on an overcast. Does that make sense? I'd say a disadvantage of this is probably because of the material is it's not comfortable. It's not what you typically would think of a blanket you put on the sand or a towel you put on the sand. It's just this weird thin material, so it's not that comfortable. What I ended up doing is I put this thing out, my big 90 square feet, staked my claim. This is my area. And then I would put blankets or towels on top of it, right? Does that make sense? It's a little more comfortable that way. Anyway, that was my review of the Wekapo sandless blanket. This was Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day. So, I really do appreciate that you stayed around for my entire review of the Wekapo sandless blanket. I do appreciate that. In this video, I referenced the inflatable air lounger that I reviewed not that long ago. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link that video right up here. Make sure you're logged into YouTube so you can see this little rectangle pop up and I don't look like a crazy person. I would love it if you would click this link to watch that review video, and by the magic of the internet, I will join you right over there. Go ahead, click it. It's safe, I promise.